After a lot of videos I made to explain how it is possible to defeat Ayanokoji, I guess it's only fair if we look from the other side, where it's basically impossible to defeat Ayanokoji, just like a lot of readers believe it to be. Their belief is not without a basis, because after everything we have seen Ayanokoji did, it's hard to believe there is anyone who could match him physically, academically, or even mentally. And if we take a look at the current condition after Volume 1 of the third year arc, it became solid proof that Ayanokoji is indeed unmatched even when he is not doing anything. So, here are a few reasons why Horikita and the others will never beat Ayanokoji. Let's take a look at it one by one. Before we talk about Ayanokoji himself, we should take a look at the greatest tool that Ayanokoji managed to get at the end of the second year. The usefulness of Ichino Sahonami is something that cannot be denied even by her greatest hater. She is lovable and smart, and she also has two massive weapons that far surpass anyone else's, which are her attractiveness and her wide social network. With the current development of the story, Ichino is now having a partnered relationship with Ayanokoji, where they agree to help each other until both of their classes reach the same height as Ryuen's and Horikita's classes. However, even without the cooperation, the relationship between them has already gone too far to the point that I doubt they will end their relationship even if the class cooperation is over. To put it simply, they're just one step away from being a lover. Ayanokoji has the greatest brain to process the information, but it's a bit hard for him to gather the information by himself. He had Kei do it for him back when he was still in Horikita's class, but now he has Ichino, which is an upgraded version of Kei. The combination of Ayanokoji and Kei was already enough to control the whole class and keep Ayanagi and Ryuen in check, and now try to imagine what Ayanokoji could do with Ichino. Since Ichino has already secured a good connection with the first year and second year students, even if Horikita or Ryuen try to seek help from other grades, Ayanokoji will immediately know about their plan. And as long as their cooperation is still hidden, it will be hard to keep information away from Ayanokoji. And the worst part is, Ryuen and Horikita will have no idea how Ayanokoji always outplayed their plan. As a proof, Ryuen still didn't know that the first-year student that he paid is already marked by Ayanokoji, and if he keeps trusting them, he will always lose without knowing why, and that is the true power of information. Of course, Ichino's information gathering still has a limit. Even Ichino cannot know about the internal conflict inside each class. However, Ayanokoji already realizes this weakness and prepares the countermeasure, which is to plant a spy in the enemy class. Since it's literally impossible for Ichino to know about the secret among the internal circle of each class, Ayanokoji will need to buy that information from someone in the inner circle. Even though I personally don't think Ayanokoji need a spy inside the enemy class, he still chose to confront Kushida at the end of the Volume 1 third year arc. He probably thought it would be faster that way, and since Kushida is also available to be bought, Ayanokoji doesn't miss his chance. If Kushida chooses to betray the class, which she probably will, it will be the same as cutting the last string of hope for Horikita's class to win. Horikita's class is already left behind in terms of strategy, and if their newly made-up strategy got leaked, it would just add fuel to the fire, resulting in the acceleration of their burning. Kushida could probably become the reason for Horikita's downfall, and after Horikita's class falls from their throne, the next target would be Ryuen's class. Lucky or not, there are several good candidates inside Ryuen's class that Ayanokoji could use as his spy. The first and the strongest candidate is Hiyori. And like Kushida, Ayanokoji could manipulate Hiyori by taking advantage of her feelings for him. There are also Tokido and Kaneda. Kaneda has been quite suspicious ever since his secret contact with Hashimoto in Volume 9 second year arc. He looks quite wicked with so little screen time to define his character, so it will be easy to write him as a traitor. As for Tokido, even though he is not part of Ryuen's inner circle, he could still be useful for a lot of things such as his action in the Volume 5 second year arc. After all, he hates Ryuen, and it will not change for the time being. The latest volume has proven that Ryuen is already damned even without a traitor in his class, and if there is one student who decides to secretly leak all his plans, that will cause quite a heavy headache for Ryuen because he cannot fully focus on Ayanokoji. Ryuen's current mental state is not really stable after losing to Ayanokoji, and if he tries to lean more on his classmates, but they are betraying him, that will be quite an ironic way for the dictator to fall. The key for Ryuen and Horikita's success to defeat Ayanokoji is similar, which is to work together with their classmates. That's why it will be impossible for them to defeat Ayanokoji as long as Ayanokoji prevent the unity inside their class. One of the most popular theory about how it is possible for Horikita to defeat Ayanokoji is by cooperating with Ryuen. While in theory it sounds good and also has the potential to actually succeed, the cooperation between Horikita and Ryuen is something that is nearly impossible to happen. First, both their class are currently in the top position, with Horikita's class reigning as Class A. With that kind of situation, there is no reason for Ryuen to cooperate with Horikita, because their cooperation will just strengthen Horikita's class position at the top. This was already explained back in Volume 6 Second Year Arc, where Horikita said that their temporary cooperation for the sports festival was purely to take down Sakayanagi, and after that, they will return to being an enemy. With the current condition of the four classes, it will be more plausible if they ask Ichino to cooperate. Since Ichino's class is currently on the bottom, they could offer a private point to them as the payment, and since they still didn't know about Ayanokoji and Ichino's cooperation, their cooperation with Ichino could easily be exploited by Ayanokoji, resulting in who knows how many class point loss. However, I don't think they will come to Ichino. Since the rumor about Ayanokoji and Ichino has been going around in school, Ryuen and Horikita must have a suspicion about them, so it's better to not take any risk with Ichino. There is a chance Horikita will ask for Ryuen's cooperation, but it's impossible for Ryuen to accept, and it's also impossible for him to ask Horikita. That's why the cooperation between them is impossible, at least with the current situation. And while we are talking about cooperation, the one student who still holds the potential to turn the table as long as he decides to cooperate is also out of the question. While Koenji had been hyped so much to be Ayanokoji's equal, there are a few good reasons to say that he is not going to be a really big problem for Ayanokoji. At least, I don't think Koenji could defeat Ayanokoji by himself. Just by narrative speaking, Koenji has a protection point, and he is also not a leader of his class. Since Horikita's class is currently Class A, it will be very bad writing if he could defeat Ayanokoji, because it will remove all tension from the story. Ayanokoji needs to be undefeatable as the final boss, and Koenji needs to lose so he can help Horikita. Because unlike Koenji, Horikita is a main character, and Koenji needs to accept his fate as just a side character. And the last reason why it is impossible for Ayanokoji to lose is because he has his father as his guardian. Back in Volume 12.5, Atsuomi made a bet with President Koenji to see who would end up graduating from Class A, Ayanokoji or Koenji. If Atsuomi wins, President Koenji must spare some time for him in the future, and since this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for Atsuomi, he will need to win no matter the cost. In the last scene of the Volume 1 Third Year Arc, it was confirmed that Ishigami has some kind of plan that he needs to do in school. And since the only one who we saw has a connection with Ishigami is just Atsuomi, it's easy to suggest that Ishigami came to school under Atsuomi's order. And since Ishigami plays a part in expelling Yaogami, we could say that Ishigami is an agent of Atsuomi for whatever reason Atsuomi decides to send him. One thing that is still unexplained about Ishigami is his ability to contact Ayanokoji even before he enrolled in school back in Volume 9 First Year Arc. If he could contact Ayanokoji from the outside, it wouldn't be strange if he could also contact someone from the inside. If that is the case, Atsuomi could contact Ishigami about the bet, and order him to make sure Ayanokoji graduates from Class A. Since Ishigami has secured his position as second-year Class A strategist, he would have a chance to indirectly help Ayanokoji by defeating the other class if the special exam between grades ever happened. And even if there will be no special exam like that, he could still help him in a more indirect way, such as expelling a student from Horikita's class. Ayanokoji will probably consider Ishigami a nuisance because of that, but that is not something that Atsuomi would care about. Atsuomi didn't care what Ayanokoji wanted to do, but he cared about Ayanokoji's victory, so no matter if Ayanokoji liked it or not, Atsuomi would do anything to make sure Ayanokoji graduated from Class A, and if Ishigami was supporting Ayanokoji from the shadows, the chance of Ryuen or Horikita winning against him will be the same as Ibuki marrying Horikita. With Ayanokoji ending up victorious, it will give Ayanokoji's story a quite unexpected ending. And if Ayanokoji remains undefeated, it could be a good reason to bring Ryuen into the sequel story, where he keeps chasing him to get his revenge. With that in mind, let's hope Ayanokoji wouldn't end himself just because no one could actually defeat him.